Los Angeles, the late 90s, a city where life never stops. During the day, it is engulfed in traffic jams and heat, and at night it comes alive with the roar of engines and the smell of burning rubber. It was here, between industrial neighborhoods and empty highways, that a movement was born that the police could not understand or control for a long time. It all started innocently enough, a few friends, a cheap Japanese car, and a desire to see who was faster. But it quickly grew into something more. Dozens of cars gathered on deserted streets. The Honda Civic became the most popular car. It cost less than $3,000, was lightweight, easy to repair, and ideal for tuning. In these garages, young guys assembled engines with their own hands, took cars apart for parts, and turned ordinary city cars into racing machines. VTEC engines allowed them to squeeze everything they could out of 4 cylinders. The Civic and Integra became street legends, and their sound was recognizable from afar. In the late 1990s, the police began to notice that the number of illegal races was growing every week. Cars without license plates appeared on the streets, and even after dozens of arrests, the races continued. Then for the first time, the word Honda appeared in LAPD reports as a separate category. These cars were too fast, too light, and often simply disappeared into the night. A whole underground community grew out of small local races, hundreds of cars, dozens of gangs. It was here on the streets of Los Angeles that a cheap Japanese car became a symbol of speed, independence, and defiance of the system. Thus began a story that forever changed American car culture. In the late 1990s, the Honda Civic and Integra became the foundation of streetcar culture in Southern California. The reasons were simple. These cars were cheap, lightweight, and extremely reliable. There were many used Hondas on the secondary market, spare parts were inexpensive, and Japanese engines with VTEC systems were easy to tune. At that time, contract engines from Japan began to be imported en masse to the US, the very ones that were installed in the Japanese versions of the Civic and Integra Type R. These engines had higher power and revs, but were not officially sold in the US. For young enthusiasts, this was an ideal opportunity. You could buy an inexpensive Civic, replace the engine, add suspension and brake tuning, and get a car that could compete with much more expensive models in terms of dynamics. But along with the growth and popularity, another side emerged. Demand for rare Japanese parts exceeded supply. And by 1999, there was a sharp increase in Honda and Acura thefts. According to the National Insurance Crime Bureau, NICB, since the late 1990s, the Honda Civic and Integra have been on the list of the most stolen cars in the U.S. every year. In 2000, the Civic took first place and the Integra took second. The reason was not the car itself, but its engines. They were dismantled for parts and sold to tuning communities. This gave rise to an entire underground economy. In Los Angeles and the surrounding area, numerous garages appeared where engines were replaced, modified, and resold. Many of them operated without a license. The term Frankenstein engine even appeared, when an engine was assembled from parts of different Honda models, with components adjusted manually to squeeze out maximum power. It was during this period that street racing went from being a hobby to a systematic phenomenon. According to LAPD police reports for 2001-2003, the number of illegal races in the Los Angeles area increased several times over. The police recorded mass gatherings at night, sometimes as many as 100-200 cars. To curb the situation, a special group was created in Los Angeles in 2002. The Street Racing Task Force, its task was to crack down on street racing, track down garages where illegal cars were gathered, and conduct raids. But it was not possible to completely stop the movement. Every evening, new racers appeared on industrial roads and the outskirts of the city. For many young people of that era, Honda was not just a means of transportation, but a tool for self-expression. A simple car with a Japanese engine became a platform for an entire generation that grew up on the idea that speed and freedom were available to everyone. By the early 2000s, street racing in Southern California had reached its peak. Every weekend, hundreds of cars gathered on industrial roads in the San Gabriel Valley, Compton, and Santa Ana areas. According to police estimates, some races involved more than 300 cars and attracted several times that number of spectators. But as popularity grew, so did pressure from the authorities. In the early 2000s, there were a number of serious accidents in Los Angeles related to illegal racing. Several cases resulted in the deaths of spectators and participants. These incidents became a turning point. In 2002, the police tightened control. New laws were passed allowing the confiscation of cars involved in races, and fines for participation increased several times over. The Street Racing Task Force received additional resources. The news regularly showed raids and arrests. Within 2 years, the number of major races declined sharply. Organized groups began to go underground, either leaving the streets and moving to official tracks. At the same time, in 2001, the movie The Fast and the Furious was released. For the general public, it was their first introduction to Los Angeles street culture. Although the plot of the film was fictional, it was based on the real environment of the late 1990s. Real tuners advised the film crew, and the episodes featured authentic cars, Honda Civic, Integra, and Supra, built by enthusiasts from Southern California. After the film's release, street culture changed forever. What was once considered underground became part of mainstream culture. Tuning shops began to open officially, manufacturers produced certified parts, and the first videos about tuning and racing appeared on YouTube. For the police, this was a partial solution to the problem. Street racing was becoming legal. But for enthusiasts, it meant the end of the old school. By the mid-2000s, night races had almost disappeared. Most participants switched to track days and autocross. Nevertheless, the legacy of that era remained. The Honda Civic and Integra became symbols of an independent approach to technology, when a car is transformed from a simple means of transportation into a tool for self-expression. The movement, which began as a series of illegal races, spawned a whole generation of engineers, mechanics, and tuners. Many of those who built cars in the garages of Southern California later opened legal workshops, participated in motorsports, and developed parts. Today, the street races of that era are part of the history of American automotive culture. Their contribution cannot be measured by speed or records. It is measured by their influence on an entire generation that believed that speed and freedom could be created with their own hands.